Having made his debut as a not-so-passive, semi-aggressive NPC in the original Borderlands, Crazy Earl is best described as just that. He's a mysterious fellow whose method of madness is unclear. But one simple trait about him that is undeniable is his disdain for people. He doesn't like talking to others or even interacting with them in any way. In the events of Borderlands 1, he's holed up in one of his strongholds. At some point in time, Patricia Tannis became familiar with him. She, in a weird way, relates to him as she also doesn't like human interaction. For her, she'd been on the planet for some time studying and researching the vault and even obtaining the vault key. The reason this is relevant here is that to keep it in safekeeping, she needed to scatter them across the planet. So she decided Crazy Earl would be a good option for one of them and gave him part of the fragment. Based on the context, it wasn't a simple favor that was being done here. In exchange for this, Tannis had to give over most of her underwear. Unfortunately for Earl, this caused him to be the target of attacks from Crom, a bandit leader also seeking to claim the key. Earl surprisingly didn't just give it over immediately. His food, explosives, and even pet were stolen before they even managed to get a hold of the vault fragment. But they were capable of getting it. This was the initial reason for Earl's barricaded defenses when we met him in the first game. He set up even more booby traps and locked himself in to stop and prevent further attacks. The only real thing you do for him after this is help him retrieve his stolen puppy, Scrappy. He was locked in a cage, and so he has the Vault Hunters go save him and return him, which they absolutely do. Scrappy would grow up very quickly and can be found right next to Earl's place. You can kill him, which doesn't affect the story. However, considering we never see Scrappy again after this game, he likely was killed. In fact, in Borderlands 2, Earl has a quote where he cries out for him, wondering where he went.
Where are you, Scrappy? Scrappy!
So needless to say, it doesn't look like Scrappy made it past Borderlands 1. After the events of the first game, Earl took up a new profession in the black market. For whatever unknown reason, he began to procure various valuable rocks and minerals, usually related in one way or another to the vault or things relevant to it. He first dipped his toe in this when he moved from Pandora to its moon Elpis. Here he would trade various storage deck upgrades from the town of Concordia for moonstones. To say he plays any real role in the pre-sequel would be incredibly generous and almost a lie. So after the pre-sequel ended, he eventually chose to re-move down to Pandora, but by now Jack had laid siege to the planet, so all of its residents were moved to Sanctuary for their safety, Earl included. While on the moon, he collected moonstones. Back on Pandora, he was collecting iridium, the purple element that had broken its way to the surface after the first vault had opened. While it's never been confirmed in any way, I like to think that due to his prolonged exposure to the vault key, he developed some sort of subliminal interest in his collecting. But like I said, that's never been confirmed or even alluded to. But anyway, similarly, he trades upgrades for iridium, and he collects quite a bit. In terms of the main story, he wound up getting his hands on a fuel cell which was needed for Sanctuary. He says that 2 of his fingers had rotted off just by touching that thing. Anyway, Earl's collection of iridium would prove to be very important, as during the events of the Commander Lilith and the Fight for Sanctuary DLC, Colonel Hector takes over the place and everyone is forced to evacuate. Funnily enough, Earl and Marcus would proceed to share a room in the meantime. But there's trouble in paradise as the two don't quite get along. Marcus doesn't like the fact that it smells like cat pee despite there being no cats, and Earl hates how much Marcus is complaining all the time. Eventually, Marcus does decide to leave and everyone gets back to their own way of life. As for all of the iridium still in Sanctuary, his room gets looted by Lilith, who consumes his entire inventory to charge herself up and stop Hector. Earl is not happy about this, but at the same time, there's not much he can really do about it. All he can do is get back to his collecting. And he would do this into Borderlands 3 as well. He stayed a part of the Crimson Raiders and even has his own dedicated part of the ship to resume his iridium transactions. Aside from that, his dialogue is still dedicated to telling people to get lost and get out of his face. Another fun fact about Earl is that he once ate an entire Outrunner vehicle of scooters with just a fork. Also, according to him, his only fear is cotton balls. But for now, that does it for the history of Crazy Earl. For someone whose dialogue consists 99% of telling us to get lost, there's still this air of mystery as to why he collects what he does and what for. But perhaps that's a mystery that will be answered at a later point in time. Until then, if there are any other characters you'd like to see me do the history of, then be sure to let me know in the comments below, and until next time, I'll see you in the next video.